Ryan Wilson, Bryant McFadden here to break it down. Geno Smith's story, that roller coaster this season, it lives on, much to the thanks of Ryan Wilson here, who has been the #1 supporter of Geno. And I do want to have a conversation about Geno's future in Seattle, but just in this game, in these moments, Ryan Wilson, how big was Geno for this team? We saw him rip off a long run in the fourth quarter just to meet the moment, not knowing what your future holds.
You talk about the long run, Joe, the touchdown pass, one of the best throws we've seen perhaps from Geno Smith ever to Tyler Lockett, outside the hands of the defender there. And it's been one thing after the next with Eugene Cyril Smith III. And you just have to tip your cap to that young man because he has been balling out, B-Mac. He has found ways to help this team win the By the way, guess who's the all-time single-season passing leader for the Seattle Seahawks? His name ain't Russ Wilson. His name is Geno Smith. He broke that record today in the middle of the fourth quarter. And you sort of touched on it, Joe, and I'm sure we'll get to it later. He's going to be a free agent after this year, so the Seahawks have some decisions to make. But right now, fingers crossed, they're pulling for the Lions. They eked out this win at home. And much the way they've won a lot of these games this year, finding ways to win football games, getting back to what Pete Carroll wants to do, which is lean on the run game and that rookie Ken Walker III, and then let Geno cook when he has that opportunity. And we've seen him do that. Had a couple of interceptions, bounce back, and again, drag that team to another victory. And it's been a fun season to watch for Geno Smith, and I'm looking forward to seeing how this plays out for him and the Seahawks going forward.
I will throw up a momentary shield for Russell Wilson, who catches ricochet shots time and again. He only had one 17-game season as a Seahawk, and he was injured for a large swath of that. So the record books read what the record books read, and it now belongs to Geno. Is Geno the long-term answer for Seattle?
I think so. I think winning today, regardless if they get into the playoffs, Geno did what he was supposed to do for them to have a legit shot to get into the postseason. I believe he secured his future with the Seattle Seahawks. I think he's the best option. Not to mention when you look at everything that was put in front of Geno, and he answered every call. Starting with 2 rookie tackles, a rookie running back who emerged to be a big-time playmaker. Tyler Lockett just been balling. Of course, we didn't see the type of production we thought we would see from DK, but we know what type of player he is. And I think the thing about Geno that I witnessed throughout this year, they all like him. They all rock with him. They ride with Geno. He's a guy when he walks into their locker room, granted based on the experience or the lack thereof, he doesn't really command that leadership, but they follow his steps. So that tells me they all really love Geno there in Seattle. So I think he is the long-term answer. I'm not saying you go get him a groundbreaking, record-setting contract, but a contract that is fair for both sides because he is the best option they have currently right now within the organization. And when you look at some of the outside suitors as far as free agents at the quarterback position, it doesn't make sense to bring in the outsider when you know what your insider can do for you, and that guy's Geno.
Yeah, I have no problem with anything you said right there. A fantastic season for a guy that plenty of people had written off well before this season in Geno Smith. Pay that man so he can get the catering, because we know they're hanging in the locker room to watch the result of this Green Bay-Detroit game, Mac.
And you remember what he said. A lot of people writ him off. He didn't write them back.
Did not write back. That
so
is
don't
for sure.
start writing to them now, Geno. Don't write them now.
Well, some checks. They were written a couple years back with the Rams, and they were going to leave tomorrow's problems for tomorrow. Look, tomorrow's today, and they got to solve some of those problems. You have a head coach that seems to be 1 foot out, 1 foot in, a quarterback you don't know the future of, a star wide receiver who was injured for the second half of the season. Ryan, I'll go out your way here first. What do you have to do, move #1, to try and get this thing back on track if you're LA with so little at your disposal?
Well, the first thing you should do is remember that you won the Super Bowl, and that's part of the reason you were willing to make that bargain, and you ended up where you are now. And, you know, it's part funny, but also partly true. And then the first thing you have to do tomorrow morning is you have to say, all right, Sean McVay, you have 2 months off. You figure out what you need to do personally in your professional life, and then we'll go from there, because burnout is real. Sean McVay is, 36, 37 years old, and this has been his heart and soul for a few years now. And if he feels like he may need to make a change, then the Rams are going to have to wait and see when he comes to that decision, hopefully sooner rather than later. But there's not much else you can do. You don't have draft picks. Matthew Stafford says he wants to continue playing. Maybe that changes if Sean McVay decides to take a break from coaching like we saw with Sean Payton. Cooper Kupp needs to get healthy. He'll have plenty of time to do that now. And then Baker Mayfield, what's his future going to be? Because he's going to be a free agent shortly here as well. So there are a ton of questions, not very many answers, and it starts with the head coach Sean McVay and what his long-term plans are going to be, because without that, that, you really don't know the direction of this organization, because if you get a new coach, that means new staff. That could potentially mean changes in the front office. So there's going to be a knockdown effect, and it starts with what McVay feels like doing and when he decides to let the organization know what his plans are going to be for the 2023 season.
Yeah, Ryan, I agree with you. I think the Rams in the offseason will be the biggest conundrum in the National Football League solely because of their quarterback. I'm sorry, not quarterback, head coach. But then I think, and I would say this, the head coach is connected to the quarterback because let's say, hypothetically speaking, Sean McVay decides to call it quits. Now, Matthew Stafford, I mean, you've done everything you wanted to do in your career when it comes to the individual accolades. And then you won a championship a year ago. Do you take a chance and come back to the Rams not knowing exactly who the head coach will be, not knowing exactly that scheme? Will it fit what you do best? We don't know. And then the same can be said for Aaron Donald as well. Remember, he kind of flirted with the idea after winning that championship and walking away. Sean McVay is the big domino in regards to their pieces out there. If he comes back, I believe he has enough power, right, and experience and leadership to be able to talk some of the other guys that could return in their quarterback and Aaron Donald. But if he walks away, and you talked about the lack of resources in regards to draft picks, this might be one of the bigger fall from graces that we've seen in regards to an organization in maybe the last 20 plus years or so, based on how good they've been under Sean McVay and then winning a championship last year and then potentially calling it quits and not knowing exactly who will replace that type of head coach. A lot of hypotheticals, we have to wait and see. But one thing we do know for sure, he's flirted with the idea, and that's Sean McVay and leaving the game.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.